we just saw, just over the last day, a very, very, very striking, disturbing, troubling event that took place in Washington, D.C. And I think the Torah has something to teach us about it. Hi, everybody. This is Ruvain Spolter from Kitah.org, and I want to share with you a Dvar Torah from Parshat Shemot that I think speaks directly to one of the main causes that led to the tremendously disturbing mob that descended on Washington, D.C. So I want to talk to you about what I call leadership, ego, and the power of words. And in Vice President Biden's address to the nation yesterday, he said something that was very profound. He said, the words of a president matter, no matter how good or bad that president. At their best, he said, the words of a president can inspire. At their worst, they can incite. And we've seen now how words can incite to mob, to violence. And at the same time, I want to show you from the Parshat an element of this, how words can be a tool of leadership from Moshe Rabbeinu. One of the events that appears in Parshat Shemot is the meeting between God and Moshe at the Sneh, the burning bush. And God comes to Moshe, and after they have a long, long discussion, God says to Moshe, you have to go and deliver the people. You have to take them out of Egypt. And Moshe Rabbeinu really doesn't want to do it. He's not interested in going back. He doesn't think it's appropriate. And Moshe Rabbeinu says the following. Vayomer Moshe el Hashem. Moshe says to Hashem, Bi ad Hashem. Please, God, lo ish dvarim anochi. I'm not a man of words. Gam mitmol, gam mishilshom, from yesterday and from before. Gam me'az dabercha l'avadecha, from when you started talking to your servant, from when you started talking to me. I'm not a man of words. Why? Ki chvad peh uchvad lashon anochi. I am kvad peh. Kaved from the word is the word heavy. I am heavy of mouth. Ukvad lashon, and heavy of tongue. I'm heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. In other areas, Moshe Rabbeinu calls himself an aral sefatayim, an uncircumcised lips. What in the world does this mean? So Rashi says, what does it mean? Bichvedut ani medaber. I speak heavily. So again, we're not entirely sure what this means. So I want to share with you, there's a very, very, very famous story in the Midrash that we're not going to read entirely, but it appears in Shemot Rabbah. And if those of you are watching at home, you can find a link to the Kitah.org website. I actually quoted you I have the whole story because it's worthwhile to read. If you want to read it with your children, it's worthwhile to read the whole story of how did Moshe Rabbeinu become a kvad peh. According to Shemot Rabbah, I'll just tell you briefly. According to Shemot Rabbah, kvad peh means that Moshe Rabbeinu had a lisp. He had a speech impediment. And the reason he had a speech impediment, it wasn't from his birth, but rather the Midrash tells a story that when Moshe was being raised in the house of Paro, he was being raised by Paro and Paro's daughter, Batya, the daughter of Paro, and he would climb on Paro's lap. They all loved the child. And the Midrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu would take the crown of Paro and put it on his head. Oh, it's so cute, the little baby. And some of the people watched it and said, we're not so sure. That doesn't sound like a good idea. We're not really happy about that. So some of them, they had known that this prophecy, this idea that a Jewish child would come and save the Jewish people, redeem them. And so that some of the advisors who wanted to throw Moshe, this child, into the Nile. Until Yitro said, let's test him. And they put on the one hand, they put a scale or two plates. On one side, they put gold. And on the other side, they put coal. Now, it's really not fair. Any child's going to take gold over coal. So the Midrash says that Moshe Rabbeinu, like the little baby Moshe, stuck his hand out to get the gold, until the Midrash says, Ba Gavriel, came the angel Gabriel, V'dachat yado, and pushed his hand, V'tafas l'dagachelet, and he grabbed the coal. And then he chnis yado im hagachelet letoch piv, v'nichva l'shono. And the baby, poor baby, his hand was burned. He put it in his mouth and he burned his lip. And then he mimenu nasa, that's it, became kvad peh uchvad lashon. So first of all, it's just beautiful. That's a very important midrash in the lore of Moshe Rabbeinu. It's well known that Moshe Rabbeinu had a lisp, and it's a story that many of us know. It's worthwhile to read it to your children, to share this with your children. I have it here in English in these source sheets on our website. But it's a very beautiful story, and it's part of our lore. But the Mefarshim, the commentaries, they don't like this explanation. There's no basis for it. I mean, it's beautiful in the midrash, but there's no textual basis for it. So I want to share with you a commentary of a man named Shadal. Shadal, his name is Shmuel David Lutzato. And Shadal said that what it means that Moshe Rabbeinu was not a leader or not a speaker, he says, I'm a heavy speaker, he says, that is based on the idea, he says the following, Moshe lo haya ish davarim. Moshe was not a man of words. Baal koach hadibur marchiv peh umarchiv lashon. Speaking in wide width and breadth bifnei mishayad in front of whoever. Velo yechat mipnei kol. And he's not afraid of anyone. He says, because to speak publicly, the Shadal says, Lutzato says something very deep. You need to think a lot of yourself. You need to have an ego. Because if you want people to think what I have to say is important. Listen to me. I am important. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm not a person of words. I'm not a speaker. Why? He says, because we learn later on in Bamidbar, Va'ish Moshe anav me'od mikol adam. Moses was the most humble person. Asher al pnei adama, on the earth. He thought, he didn't think that he was the most important person in the world. So a person like that, a person of humility, doesn't speak out, doesn't speak strongly. And therefore, Shadal says, it took Moshe Rabbeinu a long time to learn this skill, to have the power and to understand that his words were critically important. But I think that Shadal's lesson is something so important for us to understand today. We have seen all too well how the President of the United States, and I'm not a political person, but uses his words, and I was using it totally in the sense of ego. Not in ideals, not in lofty values, but it's all about me. And we've seen how the power of words can be used to incite when the words are about anochi, when they're the exact opposite of anava, the exact opposite of humility. And I think the antidote to this is to understand and to teach our children and for us to learn that we have to stop speaking about me. Every speaker, I think about when I speak myself, part of it is like, I want to promote myself and promote the Torah that I'm teaching. And we all have to we acknowledge that and realize that. But is it more about the idea and the words and the Torah that we're trying to convey? Or is it more about me? And when it becomes all about me and nothing about the ideals, then instead of inspiring, that's when the words begin to incite. We should have a peaceful Shabbat. America should become a beacon for the world, a source of leadership for the world, restore a sense of order, and the words of our leaders should be those that inspire and not incite. Have a Shabbat Shalom.